Donald and the Last Tarpaulin. Donald and Douglas help with the goods traffic on Duck's branch line. In the summer, when the weather is fine, they enjoyed it, but they don't like it so much in wet weather. No engine likes being rained on, and are even sheltered in the shed to avoid it. "I'm getting rain in my cabin this time of weather," said Donald. "Lucky for you that you got proper caps to keep the rain away." "Perhaps you should get one," said Duck. "Scrap your tender and have a nice bunker." "I don't think I should rather like that," said Donald. In an effort to keep some of the rain off, the twins' crews rigged up tarpaulins from the back of the cab roof down to the front of the tender, projecting as a sort of tent. It helped, but when it's windy, the tarpaulin will flap and make itself a nuisance. But at last the weather improved. It did so suddenly. As Donald was ready to be turned around to head back, they stopped at the water column to fill up Donald's tender. The fireman only had time to bundle the tarpaulin roughly into a roll and put it out of the way at the back of the tender. Then the fireman got down and helped the driver. Once the tender is full, the crew went back into Donald's cab. The fireman, who was shoveling coal forward from the back of the tender, noticed that the tarpaulin had disappeared. "Did you move it?" he asked the driver. The driver shook his head. "I haven't seen it since you took it down." "Bother," said the fireman. "It must have fallen off. I hope it doesn't rain before we head back." Things were going well down the line, but as they were approaching Alsdale, Donald began to feel thirsty. "Oh dear," he complained. "I began to feel thirsty." His driver opened the injector, but no water came from the tender into the boiler. "Something's blocking the water," said the driver. "Oh dear," Donald groaned. "I feel such a pain." "Don't worry," said the fireman. "We're approaching the end of the line. Once we drop off the train, we'll head over to the sheds quickly." And they did. They dropped off the train and they head quickly to the sheds. The fireman put out Donald's fire, and the driver went to the back of the tender to check the level of the water in the tank. He lifted the filler cap and peered inside. "Well, I'll be," he said. "So that's what's blocking the water. It's a tarpaulin." Seeping a long steel pole, he plunged it into the water and managed to pull out a soggy tarpaulin away from the feed pipe, which was blocking it. In no time at all, water was soon flowing freely back into Donald's boiler, and he felt much better. The fireman vowed never to store the tarpaulin near the water pillar again, and the driver made sure he wouldn't. Douglas and the Breakaways. "You don't really like them, do you?" James asked in amazement one day. "Oh, it's all work," remarked Douglas. "If why didn't I do it? Certainly nobody would." James marveled. He hated trucks himself, but he had to admit that Donald and Douglas managed to make them behave better than anyone else did. The secret, of course, was that the trucks had not forgotten an incident where Douglas had smashed a spiteful brake van. It had been an accident really, but no one told the trucks that, and they still thought that Douglas had done it on purpose. "Keep on the right side of those two," the trucks had said to each other when neither of the twins were about. One day, Douglas had to take empty trucks to the other railway and bring back loaded ones. The empties behaved well, and when Douglas reached the yard, he was feeling good. "We got those trucks slick into shape," he congratulated himself. What he didn't realize was that the loaded ones he'd taken back were visitors and had never been licked into shape by anyone. "What's this?" they screeched when Douglas backed onto them. "We want a proper engine, not an old-fashioned steam kettle." They should, of course, had known better, but then trucks never do. "Old-fashioned," snorted Douglas. "I'll teach you a lesson. Take that!" Gave the trucks a hard bump. The trucks snickered. "He's cross," they whispered. "Let's have some fun." They behaved well for a while, and Douglas began to think he had them under control. Like the trucks, He should have known better. By the time they reached the workstation, an axle box on one of the trucks had run hot, and they had to shunt that one off the train. At the next station, the guard had to fasten a brake lock, which had slipped on, accidentally on purpose. One delay followed another, and Douglas began to feel crosser and crosser. "Silly things," he scolded, but the trucks didn't care. "How does he know about us?" they said to each other. "We're modern, not out of date like him, steam kettle. Ha!" At the top of Gordon's Hill, Douglas stopped so that the brakes could be checked along the train. Unfortunately, he restarted more quickly than he meant to, and the jerk broke an old coupling hook. Douglas's firemen looked back. They were already a little way down the hill, but coming after them and gathering speed on the slope, he saw the last trucks. "We've got to keep ahead of them, Douglas," he said. "Quickly now. I just hope there's nothing at Edward Station." "But we're supposed to stop there and drop some of the trucks," objected Douglas. "No, we can't," replied the driver. "If those trucks catch us, we'll even stop earlier than that, because they'll knock us off the rails. But what are we waiting for then?" cried Douglas and put on speed. It was touch and go for a while. If the guard's brake hadn't been holding the breakaway slightly, Douglas would have been kept well ahead, but he managed it just. They saw Edward Station in front and whistled loudly. Douglas raced towards it, while the trucks followed screaming with fright. Quickly, the signalman summed up the situation. He set the line ahead as far as he could, as Douglas flattered safely by. Then came the trucks. But the signalman saw with relief that they were slowing down. With a groan of relief, the trucks came to a stop just beyond the station platform. Douglas, half a mile further ahead, managed to stop too. The signalman gave him the all clear for permission to head back and collect the trucks. He bumped them fiercely. "Now will you behave?" he growled. This time, the trucks are scared, even themselves. Yes, we will," they quivered uncertainly. And Douglas finished his journey with no more trouble at all.